couple things about hantavirus. Please, I hope you won't fall for this again. We've had monkeypox. We've had bird flu. We've had, of course, COVID. And now we're going to do it again with hantavirus. We're going to try to make you panic. We're going to bring up the issue of masks again. We're going to talk about quarantines. It is insane that the press, first of all, is covering this. Secondly, pay careful attention to the so-called professionals that are out there trying to scare the shit out of you. You should see them for who they are. And remember, these were the same people that brought the COVID disaster upon us. I cannot for the life of me understand what their motivation is for being so draconian with their presentation. Literally, there are 9 states watching like 12 people who are isolated in their home, quarantined as we normally do when there are people sick or exposed. You quarantine them somewhere, okay? Some of them are in Nebraska, I think. And you watch and quarantine, and if they get sick, you treat them. And by the way, there have been some evidence that certain antivirals, particularly one that's, I think, available in Japan, has shown good efficacy against the virus. The people that really get in trouble with it, you've heard this before, older people, over 65, over 70. It has a somewhere between a 20, 30% fatality rate. Some of that may be overstated. By the same token, the human-to-human transmission, you've heard of this Andes version or Andean subclade of the virus. Maybe that has human-to-human transmission. Maybe. It's very difficult to sort out with these viruses with long lead times, long incubation periods, to determine whether, because by the way, they do not spread when people are asymptomatic. Get that out of your head. That does not seem to happen. If there is spread, it is when the individual is sick, we think. Because the reason that is so hard to sort out versus household exposure, right? People in the same environment where the individual got sick in the first place from the rat poo, the rat urine dust, the stuff that they were kind of breathing in or touching. You go in there and you sort of clean out a closet, and that dust is something that you can get exposed to, or it gets on your hands and you get adjusted that way. That is probably how most of it is transmitted, and whether there is even human to human is something that is up for debate. Let's assume there is. I think it's a reasonable assumption. So you keep people quarantined, watch them. The reality is the 8-week window also is probably an overstatement. It is probably the case that the actual window for development of this illness is more like 2 to 4 weeks. But okay, let's use the most conservative numbers possible and say, oh, let's watch them for 8 weeks. Fine. The last thing they should have ever done is quarantine these people on a ship where they may have been originally exposed. I don't know if you saw some of the commentary from I think it was an Argentinian island where people were saying they were in a landfill and maybe that's how they got exposed. No, they said, we've checked for Hanta, we don't have it. There's no way it happened on this island, meaning that there is a reasonable probability that they were infected before they got on the ship or infected on the ship, where they quarantine people in the environment where there's no ventilation and there could possibly be the rat urine or feces that could be aerosolized that could get people sick. So I'm going to predict that if people do get sick, it's because of that common exposure on the ship that the World Health Organization mandated. This was a complete catastrophe. Occasionally, there were a couple people in the WHO who came forward and said, look, relax, this is very low risk. By very low risk, they should have been saying zero risk. There is zero risk. There's nobody listening to me today that's going to get hantavirus from this outbreak. If you get it, it's because the infected rats were in your home and you got an exposure, which happens like 70 times a year or something like that. So everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. It's a nasty illness. You don't want to get it. If you remember, it killed Gene Hackman's wife. It's a nasty thing. You don't want to get it, but you're not going to. So here's what you do. Rodent control. Here's the problem. In California, they've outlawed most of the means of really effectively controlling rodents. So write your state officials here in California, because we are overrun with rats and mice because of the homeless population and the unwillingness to do what we need to do to control these vectors. And locally here, where we have so much homelessness, they also are a vector for rickettsial disease like murine typhus. And ultimately what follows murine typhus is the plague. So we'll see about that.